Oh my. Okay. Welcome everyone to Stop and Go F1. We're going to talk about F2 now, and that was the most chaotic race I think I've ever seen in my entire life. We had one of the worst starts I've ever seen. We've had a couple of crashes along the way, a load of DNFs, two red flags, an awful FIA decision, and a complete just crazy race. We'll talk about all that and more in just a little second here. Before we do, remember to like and subscribe, and of course a shout out to the members, Dakota, the Joyous Jane, Robin Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Philip Dzangik, Flandy Skick, No Edam on Sandwiches, and Sarah Jowett. We're going to talk about the feature race. Trust me, we're going to talk about the feature race. But we have to start with the sprint of yesterday with Miney on pole, Luke Browning alongside him. A dreadful start for Luke Browning, who falls down to 5th place. Minnie up to 2nd, and Miney able to keep the lead. Going into just before the hairpin, there is contact between Crawford and Lindblad here. That would eventually give Lindblad a 10-second penalty. Personally, I feel like the penalty was a little bit too harsh, if I'm honest with you, on that one. Because I feel like Crawford did go hyper-defensive, didn't necessarily give him all the room that he could have. But of course, there is the whole rules now of you've got to have your left tyre against the front right and all this kind of stuff. I prefer it back in the day, back in my day, when the rules were simply explained by Fernando Alonso. All of the time, you have to lever the gap. Now, sometimes you don't have to lever the gap. And Crawford did not lever the gap, and it was okay, apparently. Meanwhile, Browning then passes Crawford further down the track. Shields is out on lap 4. For sure reports a lot of smoke coming from under Crawford's car due to the collision. This is when Lindblad gets the penalty. Now, this is when Lindblad is given a very interesting strategy, which has so many flaws, but nearly worked, which was fantastic. So, Lindblad's in P3 at this point, and he's told to create a 12-second gap to P2, and then, towards the end of the race, he'll just go for it, and that'll create a 10-second gap behind him, and he'll be able to keep P3. That is the plan. Flaw number 1 is what happens when a safety car comes out. That's automatically just gone. But the idea, I think, was a good one. I still don't know, a day on, if I think this was a genius plan or stupidity. The idea being, it can only happen in Monaco. Keep the cars behind you as long as you can. They'll overheat their tyres in the dirty air of your car. Your tyres will be fine because you're saving them for lap after lap after lap. So when the time comes for you to push, you have good tyres, they don't, you can create a gap. It almost works, apart from the fact that it doesn't. We'll get to it later on. This is when Villa Gomez gets a penalty for having the collision with Shields. Dirksen is out on lap 11. This brings out a safety car. The instant question of what happens if a safety car comes out for Lindblad's strategy, that's answered straight away. Because Lindblad is told, once this safety car is gone, we build the 12 seconds again. Then the question comes again, what if another safety car comes? But thankfully, we don't have to answer that question. Miney goes super early on the restart and keeps the lead. Is over a second ahead of Mini after half a lap. Of course, Lindblad is quite a few seconds behind as he's creating that gap yet again. Gerfer passes Martins, but pushes him into the barrier, and Martins falls down the order. Now, what was very strange at this point was the commentary, where Ollie Gerfer passes Victor Martins at the Rascasse, but just smashes Martins into the barrier. There was no room for both of them to be there. And the commentary are like, wow, that's a great overtake. Like, what? He just pushed him into the wall. That's not a good overtake at all. Then later on, Gerfer gets a penalty for causing a collision, and both commentators are just like, well, I'm shocked at that one. Like, did you not see Victor Martin's car be destroyed and then him have to limp around for a lap? Either way, Martin's is in the pits because, of course, his car's been destroyed because he's been pushed into the wall. Marty also retires from the race on lap 18. Now, on lap 22 of 30, Lindblad is told, now is the time to push, Arvid Lindblad. Let's go for it. We get a 10-second penalty for Gerfer. We'll talk about that. Miney starts to pull away, though, from Mini on this lap as well. And this is where Lindblad's plan, well, not Lindblad's plan, Lindblad's strategist's plan, starts to fall away. Because Mini loses the pace to Marty. And what that means is, as Lindblad is pushing like hell, Mini has lost all pace. So Lindblad is going so fast to build that gap in the 12-second gaps that he created, but that gap is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, not just because Lindblad is pushing, but because Mini is now going incredibly slowly. And the whole reason this plan can work is because it's so difficult to overtake in Monaco that the guy behind Lindblad can never get past. But now we have the opposite issue of Lindblad's pushing like hell, but now he's stuck behind Mini and he can't get past. There's part of me that goes, well, Mini could have just let him go past because it's not his race. But Mini doesn't care where Lindblad finishes. He's finishing P2 either way. So Lindblad is building this gap, building the gap, building the gap. He has the 10-second time penalty. After just 4 laps, he has a 5-second gap to Browning in P4. But a lap later is when he hits the back of Mini. And that, if it wasn't for Mini, if it wasn't for that Mini, Lindblad's plan would have worked, and maybe he would have been able to keep P3. But he just gets stuck behind Mini, who's really struggling at that point, and he just cannot create the gap. And in all of this, Crawford, who's in P4, is now catching Lindblad up again. Mini scuppering the plan. As we cross the line, Kush Miney wins the sprint race. Mini is P2, Browning is P4, Browning is P3, Crawford P4, Verschoor in 5th, Montoya in 6th, Fornaroli in 7th. Arvid Lindblad comes home in 3rd, but with a penalty finishes 8th, so still gets points on the board despite the 10-second time penalty, but could have done a hell of a lot better, and I still feel the penalty was a little bit harsh, but there you go. Dunne is 9th, Miata in 10th. Right, enough of that. Let's talk about this bloody feature race. My goodness, what a mess. Let's start at the start with World Championship leader Alex Dunne on pole, Victor Martins alongside him. As for the rest of our championship, there were 6 drivers who could have taken the championship lead coming out of the Monaco Grand Prix. In second place in the championship, going into the race, was Luke Browning. He lined up in 9th. Third place was Verschoor, who lined up in 4th. Fornaroli was in 4th in the championship, 3rd on the grid. Lindblad is 5th on the championship, 6th on the grid. Crawford is 6th for the championship, 7th on the grid. And Marty is 7th on the championship, and the only one of our championship protagonists who was out of the top 10 in P15. But before the race starts, Sebastian Montoya stalls on the grid for the 2nd week in a row. He stalls on the grid and has to go to the pit lane. Little did we know at the time, this was the best possible thing that could have happened to him in this race. As the lights go out, it is a fantastic start from Victor Martins, an awful start from Alex Dunne. Martin takes the lead, but going into Saint-Devote, Alex Dunne forgets how to drive a car, goes straight forward into the side of Victor Martins. They both end up in the barrier, and it causes one of the biggest pile-ups we have seen in any formula for a very, very, very long time. Out of this, Leo Fornaroli leads the race with Arvid Lindblad, I believe, in P2. This brings out a red flag. What we see on the replay again is Luke Browning actually had a dreadful start, dropped quite far down the grid, but by doing this, it actually saved him because he was not in that pack that was involved in the pile-up. He had a bit of space behind him and was able to guide himself through. So actually, very good from him. And as we see replay after replay after replay of this, there were 10 cars involved in this. Dunne, Martins, Verschoor, Mini, Miata, Marty, Cordial, Esserton, Shields, and Megatunif. And now all of those were out, but all of them were in some way involved in this pile-up. But despite that, there is only one person responsible for all of this, and it's Alex Dunne, who is dreadful. So I spoke quite well of him last time out in Imola. I said he did very well in Imola. I also said I didn't like how he drove in Bahrain because he was the same as he is here. Honestly, as I sit here right now, give Alex Dunne a race ban. That was disgraceful. If we go back to the Belgian Grand Prix of 2012 in the F1, there was an awful pile-up there at the start of the race, and the person responsible was Romain Grosjean. Grosjean got a race ban for the next race. Alex Dunne needs to have the same, because he caused a collision in qualifying and got away with it. I believe it was with Villa Gomez. It was entirely Dunne's fault, but somehow he got away with it. He did the exact same in Bahrain. He can't overtake. He just hits people, and he did that in Bahrain, and he got away with it. And here we are in Monaco. He's caused all of this. He's just dreadful. I have no... Like, he's world championship leader going into this race. It's a disgrace. He's just not good. He just can't overtake. He's very, very quick. He's unbelievably quick. But his overtaking skills are dreadful. And it's just shown here in Monaco. This is awful. Awful stuff. I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say he deserves a race ban for this, because he just wasn't even trying to make the corner. He knew he'd made a bad start. He knew Victor Martins had made a fantastic start, and just went, okay, well, I need to try and get this back into turn one. He was never getting it back into turn one, and he ruined the race of 10 different people in one corner. Awful, awful driving from Alex Dunne. Really, really bad stuff. Gabriele Mini is still in the car at this point, as is Miata. We hear the radio of Mini saying that he's not out of the race. He stopped due to engine temperature, not due to damage. And the team are telling him to stay in the car, but eventually both Mini and Miata do get out of the car, and they will be classed as DNFs from here on out. We get the message after a while to say that the race will restart in qualifying order with those who DNF removed from the race and from the starting grid, which means that as we go to start the race again, Leo Fornaroli is on pole position. Alongside him is Sebastian Montoya, the man who stalled on the grid, a man who had to start the race from the pit lane, managed to avoid everything, and is now on the front row. We also thought it would be a rolling start and move to a timed race. I think normally not a fan of rolling starts, but I believe this was done just in order to make sure that we got the race kind of finished within the allotted time slot, even though in the end we didn't. So, as we go to start this race again, it's Fornaroli in the lead from Montoya. As for our championship protagonists now, they are all in the top 5. So Luke Browning was 5th, Lindblad is 3rd, Crawford is 4th, and out of the race is Dunne, Verschoor and Marty. Cordeal, Shields and Megatunif were all in the pileup in some way, but managed to escape and got back in the race. So, as we get this started, it's a good start from Fornaroli, who controls the pace really well, but further down we have a three-way battle between Browning, Miney and Dirksen. Dirksen on the soft tyres at this point, trying to make some moves. He changed to the softs during the red flag period. He's on the back of Miney, when Miney's being quite cautious into Raskas. Dirksen just either not paying attention or just didn't see Miney braking a bit early, goes right into the back of him and hits the wall. Dirksen's out of the race, Miney continues. But yeah, just Dirksen not really paying attention there. That brings out the VSC. As the VSC ends, Ollie Gerfer's one of the first to pit. Then in comes Boganovic, Megatunif and Bennett. But at the front of the race, it is all very close between Fornaroli, Montoya and Lindblad, all within a second of each other. Some really, really close stuff at this point. Crawford not too far behind them, but not really in that gap of the top 3 at this point. Luke Browning is told to box by the team, but he ignores the team. Little did they know, that was the best choice for him, because a lap later, Dino Boganovic is in the wall at Casino Square. Now, this brings out a virtual safety car. Now, under a virtual safety car, in F2 rules, you're not allowed to pit. It's a stupid rule, I don't like it, but that is the rule. Here's the thing. This is never a virtual safety car. We will see this change from a virtual safety car to a safety car to a full-on red flag. This was never a virtual safety car. I have no idea. Like, I'd love to know the reasons behind it. I think the stewards should have to publish reasons. Like, in Imola last weekend, why was Ocon's DNF a virtual safety car, but Antonelli's DNF was a full-course safety car when they're basically in the same place? Here, who in their right mind thought that was a virtual? He's stuck in the wall. The barrier was bent in half. It was never, ever a virtual safety car. It was a full safety car at the least. But they decided to change it to a full safety car at a point where the top 3 had just passed the pit entry. Just as they changed the safety car, it gives Crawford just enough time to change his mind and dive into the pits to go in for the pit stop there. There could be some questions asked about crossing white lines, but I think overall he was okay. What we see then is the entire race, just dives into the pit lane, apart from the three who are leading the race, who are now stuck behind the safety car, so they get no benefit whatsoever. They have to wait a whole lap behind the safety car to dive into the pit lane. We then get all three of them in. Lindblad has a fantastic stop, jumps Montoya. Fornaroli gets out just ahead, but Crawford is half a mile down the road because he's had a whole lap of being able to go out on fresher tyres. Yes, he would have been slowed down because of the limitations of, the yellow flags and everything, but he's still going a hell of a lot faster than they are behind an entire lap of Monaco behind the safety car. So the FIA just giving Crawford the victory, just going, here you go, mate, why don't you win this one? And then we're all waiting behind the safety car. We get the shot of the barrier for the first time, and we see, my God, the barrier's basically broken in half. And my thought is, well, this is going to end behind safety car because there's 7 minutes to go. Little did I know, it got even worse. They change it to a full red flag. Everyone comes into the pits, they line up, and they go, right, Crawford, you've won. Oh, but by the way, Lindblad, you've also been speeding in the pit lane, so you're no longer P3 either. That pit lane stop that shouldn't have really happened, because we should have just called the safety car straight away. It's like the entire end of the start of this race and the end of this race were an absolute disaster. It was dreadful from everyone involved. Just awful stuff. It's the kind of thing which you watch and you go, I don't want to watch this anymore. What is the point? What is the point? And it's not about, I like Crawford. I'm very happy he won. He seemed overjoyed. He seems like a nice guy. He shouldn't have won. He wasn't the best driver on the grid. It's just so stupid. How can they make this mistakes like this all the time? It's just, oh my God. It's so aggravating now. But yeah, like that Lindblad penalty for speeding in the pit lane, he said on the radio that he had the limiter on all the time. So either he didn't or there was a problem with the limiter. But either way, he shouldn't have been in the pits at that point. He should have been in the pits 2 laps earlier. And who knows what would have happened then. It just seems all very manufactured, but there you go. So, Crawford wins, Fornaroli second, Montoya in third. Fornaroli's furious, by the way, furious on the radio. Doesn't say anything in the cool-down room. Looked very unhappy on the podium, and rightfully so, because that's a win that's been taken away from him. Luke Browning is in fourth, Miney is fifth, Stanek is sixth, Cordial seventh, Villagomez eighth. Arvid Lindblad manages to finish ninth somehow, despite having the penalty and the race finishing behind the safety car, and Ollie Gerfer is 10th and gets 1 point. It's a huge mess. But the shining light in the huge mess is that Alex Dunne is no longer the championship leader. The new championship leader is Luke Browning on 70 points. Alex Dunne is now in P2. Leo Fornaroli is third, for sure in fourth. Arvid Lindblad scored points in both those races. He's in sixth. Jack Crawford jumps up to fifth with his win. It's all still pretty close. Let's have a look as we head into the last of the triple headers for Formula 2. How many points can you get on a weekend? 37, is it, with the 2 points per pole? So 37 points. Let's have a look. If who's still in contention to be championship leader this time next week? It's anyone from Victor Martins up. So the top 8 can still be championship leader coming out of next weekend in Spain. Let's hope that next weekend in Spain is a little bit better than this, because this was dreadful. Hopefully, Alex Dunne will not be in that race, and hopefully the FIA have some kind of understanding of what their job is, and when is the right time to call a safety car, when is the right time to call a virtual, when is the right time to cause a red flag, because that was ridiculous. There you go, everyone. That's Formula 2 done. So far we've had a very boring Formula 3 race, an infuriating Formula 2 race. So hopefully the Formula 1 lies in the middle, and in the middle of boring and infuriating, as we all know, there's fun. So, fun to come later on. Funula 1, they'll call it. I'm sure of it. I'll see you there. Goodbye.